"Will you be my professional boyfriend?" she asked, her voice shaking, eyes full of desperation. He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled softly and said, "I work for free now." That was the night a hired act turned into the most unexpected kind of love. The evening light in Manhattan painted the glass buildings gold as Natasha Lehman stood outside a tall structure with shiny windows that reflected the city. Her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. The sign above her head read, "Prestige Companion Agency." She had never imagined herself standing before a place like this. Her phone vibrated again. It was her mother, Linda Lehman, reminding her about the wedding tomorrow. "Natasha, remember the Greenfield wedding is at noon, and James will be there with Amanda. Please don't go alone again, darling. People are already talking." Those words echoed in Natasha's head. People are talking. It was all anyone ever said in her world. As the daughter of Robert and Linda Lehman, founders of a famous construction company in New York, she had lived her entire life under judgment. Every charity dinner, every family event, every party seemed to revolve around image and perfection. And in that perfect world, being 30 and single made her look like a failure. She took a deep breath and stepped inside the agency. The air smelled of vanilla candles. The walls were soft beige, and quiet music played in the background. To her surprise, it didn't look shady or strange. It looked professional, warm, and well-organized. A woman at the front desk smiled kindly. "Good evening, miss. You must be Miss Lehman. Mr. Edwards is ready to meet you." Natasha's throat tightened. "Thank you." She followed the woman down a hallway filled with modern art until they reached a glass office overlooking the skyline. Standing near the window was a tall man in a gray suit, his back straight, hands in his pockets. When he turned around, Natasha froze for a second. Lucas Edwards looked nothing like she had imagined. He was calm, confident, and far too handsome. His dark brown skin looked smooth under the office lights, his deep eyes carried warmth, and his presence filled the room with quiet strength. "Miss Lehman," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Lucas Edwards, founder of Prestige Companion Agency. Please, have a seat." Natasha sat carefully, trying to hide her nervousness. "Thank you, Mr. Edwards. I'm not exactly sure how this works." Lucas smiled gently as he sat behind his desk. "It's simpler than you think. We provide professional companionship for formal events. Most of our clients are business executives, celebrities, or people who need a date for social gatherings. Everything is handled with complete discretion." Natasha looked down, embarrassed. "It's just that, tomorrow, there's this wedding. My ex-boyfriend James will be there with his fiancée Amanda, and my entire family will be watching me again, whispering about how I'm still single." Lucas nodded as if he understood completely. "Family pressure can be hard. What type of person are you hoping to accompany you?" Natasha took a deep breath and whispered, "You." He raised an eyebrow, a small smile touching his lips. "Me?" "Yes," she said quickly. "I know you probably have other people who do this, but I don't want to explain everything again to someone new. I need someone confident, someone who can blend in easily, someone who won't make me feel small." Lucas was silent for a moment, then placed his pen down. "Miss Lehman," he said quietly, "I don't usually take personal clients anymore. I built this company so I could manage others, not go on jobs myself." Her heart sank. "I understand. I'm sorry for asking. I just thought maybe—" He leaned forward slightly, cutting her off gently. "I didn't say no." Natasha looked up, confused. "You didn't?" He smiled, the kind that made her chest feel lighter. "I said I don't take clients, but you seem different. So, let's just say, I'll do this one for free." "For free?" she repeated, surprised. "Yes," he said calmly. "I work for free now." Her eyes widened. "Why would you do that?" "Because I want to see what makes a woman like you feel like she has to pay someone to stand beside her," Lucas said softly. Natasha looked away, her cheeks warm. "You wouldn't understand. My family is all about reputation. My sister Victoria married a senator, my brother Christopher is engaged to a doctor, and my parents are respected business owners. Every time I attend an event, people look at me like I'm a half-finished project." Lucas's voice lowered. That sounds exhausting. It is, she admitted. I have my own architecture firm, I earn well, and I live a good life. But none of it matters because I don't have a man beside me. Lucas studied her quietly for a moment, his deep eyes softening. Then tomorrow, let's show them that success doesn't always need an explanation. Her lips curved into a small, uncertain smile. You really mean it? I do, he said, standing up. But on one condition. What's that? You stop apologizing for being who you are, Lucas said. You're not less of a woman because you're successful. Stop letting people make you feel like you need to be smaller just to fit their comfort. Natasha's eyes glistened. I'll try. Good, he said with a grin. Now, let's talk about details. Where is the wedding? At the Grand Royal Hotel, she said. It's one of those fancy New York events. Flowers, champagne, 100 guests, and plenty of gossip. Lucas chuckled. Sounds like fun. What time should I pick you up? 10 in the morning, she said softly. Perfect. He stood, offering his hand again. Tomorrow, we make an impression. When Natasha left the building, her heart was racing. For the first time in years, she didn't dread a family event. She didn't know why she trusted this man so quickly, but something in his eyes made her believe that he truly saw her. Not as a client, not as a disappointment, but as a woman who simply wanted to be understood. The next morning, Natasha stood in front of her mirror, staring at her reflection. Her long blonde hair was pinned in an elegant bun, and she wore a navy blue dress that hugged her shape gracefully. It was classic and strong, just like she wanted to feel. When the doorbell rang, she took a deep breath and opened the door. Lucas stood there in a perfectly fitted navy suit, his tie matching her dress. His calm smile made her forget her nerves for a moment. You look beautiful, he said. Her heart skipped. Thank you. You look incredible, he chuckled. Shall we? In the car, as they drove toward the Grand Royal Hotel, Lucas asked questions about her family, her work, and the people she might meet. Every time she spoke, he listened carefully, remembering names and small details as if he were preparing for a mission. Tell me about James, he said softly, as the hotel towers came into view. He was safe, Natasha said quietly. Predictable, the kind of man my parents approved of. But he never really saw me. He wanted a wife who would make him look good, not a partner with dreams of her own. Lucas glanced at her. Then he didn't deserve you. Natasha smiled faintly. No one's ever said that before. Then maybe you've been listening to the wrong people, he replied. When they arrived, Lucas offered his arm. Ready? She nodded, though her heart was pounding. As they stepped into the Grand Royal's glittering ballroom, conversations paused. Heads turned. Natasha felt the stares, but for the first time, she didn't shrink. Lucas's steady hand rested lightly on her back, and his calm presence shielded her from the weight of judgment. Her mother, Linda, was the first to approach. Darling, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You brought someone. Mother? Natasha said softly. This is Lucas Edwards. Lucas extended his hand politely. Mrs. Lehman, it's an honor. I've heard about your charity work for the Children's Hospital. It's remarkable. Her mother blinked in surprise. Oh, you're familiar with it? Yes, Lucas said easily. Natasha told me all about it. You've done wonderful things. Her mother smiled, genuinely this time. How lovely to meet a man who listens. When they walked away, Natasha whispered, You're good at this. He smiled slightly. I told you, I've had practice. As the night went on, Natasha watched Lucas handle every person who approached with confidence and kindness. He talked business with her father, charmed her relatives, and even impressed the guests who used to whisper behind her back. But what made her heart truly flutter was when he looked at her not as a role, not as an act, but as if she was the only person that mattered in the room. And for the first time in years, Natasha felt free. That night, as they danced under the golden lights, she whispered, Lucas, thank you for doing this. He looked down at her, his expression soft. Natasha, can I tell you something? What? I'm not acting anymore, he said quietly. Her breath caught, and the world around her faded until it was just the two of them, swaying to the music, lost in something that suddenly felt very real. The next morning, sunlight filled Natasha's apartment as she stood by the window, replaying every second of the night before. The music, the looks, the warmth in Lucas's eyes. She could still feel his hand on her back as they moved through the ballroom together. It hadn't felt like pretending. It had felt real. But now, in the quiet of morning, her thoughts raced. Was it just part of his act? Was it foolish to think he meant what he said? Her phone buzzed with dozens of messages from friends and family. Everyone was talking about the mysterious man she had brought to the wedding. Some congratulated her, others asked nosy questions. Her mother had left a voice message too, saying she had never seen Natasha so confident. Natasha smiled faintly. Then her phone rang. It was Lucas. "Morning," he said, his voice calm and warm. "Good morning," she said softly, her heart beating faster than it should. "I hope I didn't overstep last night," Lucas said. "I just wanted you to have a good time." "You didn't," she said quickly. "It was perfect. You were perfect." There was a small silence. Then he said quietly, "Dinner tonight? Just us. No audience. No pretending." Natasha hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," he said gently. "Last night felt real, and I want to know if it still feels that way when no one's watching." That evening, they met at the Riverside restaurant in Queens. The air smelled of roasted garlic and ocean breeze. The place was quiet, lit with warm lights that reflected softly off the river. Natasha arrived early, nervous, and unsure what to expect. When Lucas walked in, wearing a simple shirt and jeans, he looked different, softer, more like himself. "You look beautiful again," he said as he sat across from her. She laughed nervously. "You say that too easily." "I mean it every time," he said with a smile. They talked for hours. Without the fancy clothes and music, their conversation flowed naturally. Lucas told her about his life, growing up in a small town with hardworking parents, and how he started his business to help people feel comfortable in rooms where they didn't feel they belonged. "I started it after realizing how often people pretend to be something they're not," he said. "But now I'm tired of pretending too." Natasha listened closely. "Do you ever wish you'd chosen something else?" He thought for a moment. "Sometimes. But if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have met you." Her cheeks warmed. "You're good with words." "Not always," he said, smiling. "But tonight, I mean every one." They left the restaurant and walked along the quiet street near the water. The city lights reflected on the surface, making it sparkle like glass. "Lucas," she said softly, "this feels strange." "Strange how?" "Strange because I don't know what's real and what's not anymore," she said. "You're a professional at this. How do I know you're not just saying the right things?" He stopped walking and turned to her. "Because I'm not working right now," he said. "You didn't pay me for this dinner. I came because I wanted to." She looked at him for a long moment. His eyes were steady and sincere. Slowly, she nodded. "Okay." Days passed, and Natasha found herself thinking about Lucas more than she wanted to admit. Then one morning, everything fell apart. Her phone rang, and it was Madison, a woman known for spreading gossip through every social circle in New York. "Natasha," Madison said with a tone full of excitement, "I thought you should know. Your charming boyfriend isn't who you think he is." Natasha frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I just found out he's not some security consultant or businessman. He runs a companion service. I saw his company online. Prestige Companion Agency. My friend Jennifer hired him last month for a gala in Chicago. Imagine my surprise when I saw the same man at your wedding party." Natasha's stomach dropped. "That's not possible." "Oh, but it is," Madison said with fake sympathy. "I thought you deserved to know before people start talking. You know how this city is." The call ended, and Natasha stood frozen, her heart pounding. Within minutes, her phone filled with messages from friends, colleagues, and even her parents. Everyone had heard. By evening, she found herself at her parents' mansion, sitting on the same sofa she'd grown up on. Her father's expression was tight with anger, her mother's with disappointment. "How could you embarrass us like this?" Robert asked. "Do you realize how this looks?" "He's not what you think," Natasha said weakly. Linda's voice trembled with frustration. "People are saying you paid a man to act as your boyfriend. How could you let this happen?" Natasha felt her chest tighten. "I didn't pay him to pretend. He offered to help me, for free." Robert's tone turned sharp. "For free? Do you even hear yourself? Men like that don't work for free." Tears welled in her eyes. "He's not like that." "Sweetheart," her mother said softly. "Even if he means well, his work makes you look foolish. No one will take you seriously again. Think of our family's name." Her heart broke at those words. When she left their house, she sat in her car for a long time, staring at her phone. Lucas had called several times, but she hadn't answered. She couldn't, not after hearing what everyone was saying. Later that night, she listened to his voicemail. His voice was calm, but full of emotion. "Natasha, I know what you've heard. Please, let me explain. Nothing about what I feel for you is part of my work. I need to see you just 5 minutes, please." She deleted the message and burst into tears. The next morning, Lucas waited outside her office building. When she arrived, he stepped forward, his eyes tired but steady. "We need to talk," he said softly. "Lucas, please," she said, trying to keep her voice firm. "There's nothing left to say." "There's everything to say," he replied. "You think I planned this? You think I wanted you to get hurt?" "You lied to me," she said sharply. "You told my family you owned a consulting firm." "I did own one," he said quietly. "I just didn't tell you it was for companionship. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to see me the way they do." Her voice cracked. "And now everyone knows. They're laughing at me, Lucas. My family, my friends, even James called to pity me." Lucas's jaw tightened. "You think I care what they say? I only care what you believe." "I don't know what to believe anymore," she whispered. He looked at her for a long time, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. "Then believe this." "What is it?" she asked. "Proof," he said. "I'm closing the agency. For good." Natasha frowned, confused. "You're what?" "I called every client last night," he said. "I told them I'm done. I've already filed the paperwork. I'm walking away from all of it." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do that?" "Because I want a real life," he said simply. "I want a real love. You made me realize that pretending for others isn't living." She opened the folder and saw signed letters, documents, everything proving what he said was true. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered. "You built that business for years. You're just giving it up?" "I'm not giving it up," Lucas said softly. "I'm trading it for something better, for the chance to love you without you ever doubting me again." Natasha's tears fell freely now. "I don't know if I can trust this." "Then take your time," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "But just know, I meant everything I said that night. I love you, Natasha. I loved you even when I tried not to." He turned to leave, his shoulders heavy, and Natasha stood frozen as he walked away. That night, as she sat alone in her apartment, she looked again at the papers he'd left. Everything he said was true. He had shut down his business for her, and in that moment, she realized something painful but clear. She was scared, not because he had lied, but because he had been honest in a way no one else ever was. She whispered to herself, "He gave up everything for me." And for the first time since the scandal began, she smiled through her tears. A week passed, and the city outside Natasha's window moved on as if nothing had happened, but inside her heart, nothing felt the same. Every morning she went to work, spoke to her staff, smiled when needed, but deep down she was broken. The gossip had faded from the internet, but whispers still followed her. Every time she entered a meeting, she could feel eyes on her. People who once praised her now looked at her with curiosity or pity. At night, she couldn't sleep. She kept hearing Lucas's words in her mind, his voice calm but full of pain. "I'm not giving it up. I'm trading it for something better." He had done something no one else had ever done for her. He had chosen her over everything he built. One evening, Natasha sat at Maple Cafe, her favorite quiet spot in Manhattan, staring at her untouched coffee. Her brother, Christopher Lehman, walked in and joined her. He was one of the few family members who hadn't judged her harshly. "You've lost weight," he said softly, sitting down. Natasha smiled faintly. "I've lost a lot of things," he sighed. "Mom told me about Lucas closing his business. She said he really did it." Natasha nodded slowly. "He did. I saw the papers myself." "Then what's stopping you?" Christopher asked. "I don't know," she said, looking out the window. "Fear, maybe. I've spent my whole life trying not to be embarrassed, not to be judged. And then he walks into my life, breaks all my rules, and tells me to stop apologizing for who I am. I believed him, but I let fear win." Her brother smiled gently. "You sound just like Mom used to, before she learned to stand up to Grandma." Natasha laughed a little. "Mom stood up to Grandma?" "Once," he said, laughing too. "She told her that Dad wasn't rich when they first met, but she saw something real in him. Grandma called her foolish, and Mom said, 'Maybe, but at least I'm brave enough to love.'" The words stayed with Natasha long after he left. Brave enough to love. That night, she made her decision. The next morning, she went to the Brown consulting firm. Through the glass doors, she saw Lucas speaking with a group of young professionals. He looked confident but tired, like someone trying to rebuild his world from scratch. When he noticed her standing there, he paused mid-sentence. The room went quiet. "Natasha," he said softly, walking toward her. She swallowed hard. "Hi." He stopped in front of her, unsure of what to say. "I came to see you," she said, her voice trembling, "and to tell you that I'm done being afraid." Lucas's eyes searched hers, filled with surprise and hope. "Afraid of what?" "Of what people think. Of being judged. Of making mistakes," she said. "You gave up your business to prove your love, and I didn't even thank you. I kept worrying about my reputation while you were losing everything. I don't deserve you, Lucas." He shook his head gently. "Don't say that." "No. Listen," she said, her voice firming. "You once told me to stop apologizing for who I am. So, here I am, owning it. I love you, and I don't care who knows it." The room had gone completely still, his employees pretending not to stare. Lucas stepped closer, his voice low and tender. "You have no idea how long I've waited to hear you say that." Natasha's eyes glistened with tears. "Then stop waiting." He smiled, just before pulling her into his arms. The moment their lips met, everything around them faded: the city, the noise, the people. It was quiet, real, and full of promise. Later that week, they sat together at the Hudson Bay waterfront, watching the sun sink behind the skyline. Lucas had brought coffee, and Natasha brought her sketchbook. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked softly. "The agency? The work? The money?" He shook his head. "No. I miss helping people feel confident, but I don't miss pretending. You helped me realize that I was hiding behind that business because I didn't believe I could have something real." "And now?" she asked. "Now I have something better," he said, squeezing her hand. They stayed silent for a while, just listening to the waves. Natasha rested her head on his shoulder. For the first time in her life, she felt peaceful. Months passed, and their story began to change in the public eye. The same people who had mocked Natasha for hiring a professional companion now praised her courage for rebuilding her life with him. The newspapers wrote about Lucas's new company, where he trained executives to build confidence without pretense. Together, they created a small joint project that focused on helping young professionals navigate high-pressure social environments with authenticity and self-respect. Their love story became an example of how two people from different worlds could build something real. A year later, Natasha found herself back at the Grand Royal Hotel, the same place where everything had started. This time, it wasn't a wedding for someone else. It was her own engagement party. The ballroom glowed under golden lights. Guests laughed, music played softly, and Natasha's parents smiled proudly as they welcomed people. Her father, Robert Lehman, walked up to her and said quietly, "You were right about him. I misjudged him." Natasha smiled warmly. "We all did, Dad. Even me." Lucas stood across the room, speaking with Christopher. When he saw her, his face softened. He took the microphone and gently tapped it. The room fell silent. "I want to tell you all a story," he began, his deep voice steady. "A year ago, I was hired to be someone's professional companion, a job I thought I could do without emotions, without risk. But that night, I met a woman who changed everything." People looked around, whispering. Lucas smiled. "She hired me to pretend to be her boyfriend, but I fell in love with her instead. She made me want to stop performing love and start living it." Gasps filled the room, but his eyes never left Natasha's. "She taught me that real love isn't about what the world sees. It's about what two people feel when they stop pretending and choose each other completely." He raised his glass. "To Natasha, the woman who taught me to be brave." Tears filled her eyes as she walked to him. Taking the microphone, she said softly, "He said he was hired to pretend, but he's the first man who ever made me feel truly seen. He didn't care about my name, my family, or what people thought. He cared about me, the real me, and I'll never stop being grateful for that." The crowd applauded as Lucas kissed her gently. Her mother wiped her tears, her father clapped proudly, and her brother cheered loudly. Later that night, as they danced under the same chandeliers where their story began, Natasha whispered, "Do you ever regret it?" Lucas smiled. "Only one thing." "What's that?" she asked. "That I didn't meet you sooner." She laughed softly, resting her head against his chest. "Then let's spend the rest of our lives making up for lost time." And as they moved together surrounded by love, family, and forgiveness, Natasha realized something she had searched for all her life. Love wasn't about reputation or perfection. It was about honesty, courage, and two people who refused to give up on each other. The woman who once walked into an agency out of fear had found something far greater than what she went looking for. She had found a love so real, it needed no act,